Sensationally silver, because you are.
Welcome, everyone, to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age, people who are going to bring you information, inspiration, and validation. Join us. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age. My guest today is Ann Bardo, and she works as a volunteer at an animal shelter. And she's going to tell us some things that she knows about that experience, about why you might be interested in doing that, and some other passions of hers. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you.
So
I'm
my
looking
first
forward.
question is always, how old are you, Ann?
I am 75.
Okay, well, you qualify because my guests have to be over 60, 60 or over, because
Okay.
this is specifically for persons of age and our interests, our concerns, our issues. So how old do you feel, Ann?
That's a funny thing. I don't feel any different than I did years and years and years ago. I'm blessed with good health, I guess naturally, and I take care of myself. And I'm still doing most of the same things that I've always done, maybe a little slower. But I feel young. I feel great. I really do.
So another question, and I'd like to ask this of women because I know it was an issue for me. Have you ever lied about your age?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. I sometimes hold back. I'd rather people see me in action, see me do something, and then as I'm doing it, then they can find out and I tell them. Because people still think 75 to some people sounds old, and they might not want you to carry the 30-pound dog, or they might not want you to run down to the corner. But if you can do it and show them, and then they find out that you're home free. So no, I've never lied about it, but I just might not be that open about it in the beginning.
And they get a revised idea of what 75 looks like, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Vital and full of life and full of interests and excitement and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
And then you might get a compliment when they find out.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this. What is the most challenging thing about being the age you are today?
I think the challenging thing is realizing that you're going toward the end of your life, and as you have friends that are not maybe as healthy as you and they're slowing down a lot in front of you, or people have passed, or you read articles about aging, it's like a reminder that these are very precious years, and your future is not, as long as it used to be.
So how does that realization affect you, Anne? That idea, okay, the clock's ticking. I don't have forever.
Well, I'm lucky to live where I live and love my life. Um, I don't have a real long bucket list. I maybe add a few things here and there. So I'm kind of living the life I want to live. And so it's there's not as much pressure. It's just cherishing and recognizing that I am happy, or recognizing that I am doing what I want to do. And if I have a little wonder about something, then exploring and maybe adding to my list of volunteerism.
All right, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the ways you volunteer and what that brings into your life.
Um, it's getting the focus off yourself. There's so many needs out there. And to me, when you're doing something constructive out there for people or places, that's a good feeling. And if you can match that up with something that you love, whether it's art or music or animals or a sport or children, anything. And I was fortunate to explore animals. I have a passion for dogs. Um, every shelter nationwide is over capacity, and there's a terrific need out there. And so I found my local animal shelter, and our shelter last year had 33,000 hours of volunteer time. So there are a lot of volunteers, and it's desperately needed. For me, it's that, but there's just so much out there that people can explore to get involved.
You know, whenever I lose an animal, whenever an animal dies, I immediately try to fill that space with another animal. I'm not somebody who wants to spend a lot of time grieving. I don't like that empty hole that's left by an animal who's gone. So I start out right away looking at the shelters, and um, I could be wrong, but I think the shelter that you volunteer at is pretty amazing. I don't know if they rate shelters or whatever, but what are some of the qualities that make a shelter really special?
Um, well, there's a big controversy today about kill and no kill shelters. City shelters and a lot of county shelters are over capacity. There's just so many stray dogs coming in. And so everybody wants to be no kill, and they're striving for that. So that's the number one thing that comes up when people talk about shelters. Are you no kill? And we are a socially conscious sheltering shelter, where I think there's a 93% live rate, and just a small portion of dogs are euthanized for medical or behavioral reasons. So that's kind of a gold standard to be no kill. And then it's the actual physical shelter. How are the animals taken care of? Do they have a great, strong volunteer program? Because as much of a staffing as you have of paid workers, there's so much extra that needs to be done. And so if you have volunteers that can come in and work with the animals to enrich them, to get to know them, we get to know each animal and put notes in the computer. So when you come in to adopt, we can tell you a lot about that dog, for example. There's a foster program. If you don't want to work at the shelter itself, we have hundreds of fosters, and they take animals into their homes. And from there, they can get them adopted through the shelter, which frees up space. So it's hopefully no kill. It's a great volunteer program, foster program, and just people that care and just want to be there doing the grunt work that
I
needs to
was
be
I
done.
was at your shelter waiting for it to open, and a woman drove up who was one of the volunteers. And she was looking in you have a big bin out there where people donate things,
Donation
blankets
bin.
and beds and all kinds of things for the animals. And she said, I always come to check the bin because sometimes people put animals in there. And so we got to talking. She was so kind and so friendly and went way beyond anything that she needed to do for me to make my experience there a positive one. I mean, this is before the shelter even opened.
Mhm.
And when it opened, and I've been there several times, the volunteers are outstanding. Their staff, their paid staff is
Right.
outstanding.
Mhm.
And I was made to feel so welcome. That was not the consistent experience that I had with the shelter in my town, one of the shelters.
Mhm.
It felt like going to jail, like a maximum security prison
Yeah.
to visit the animals. Lots of closed gates, lots of no-go areas. And when I wanted to look at a particular animal, I had someone right at my shoulder as though I was going to do something illegal.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
such an awful feeling. And your place, people stay out of the way. And then when you want to see an animal or you want to hold it or pet it or whatever, there they are. And they're of service. A big lawn. I mean, it feels like going to a park.
We try. We have a volunteer director and assistant, and we try to get involved with the community. We have a group of special needs young people that come in once or twice a week just to be at the shelter and absorb the feeling of the animals, and we give them little tasks to do. We encourage people to come in and tour. We have organizations, corporate organizations that come in. We have school children that come in. We give them a little orientation. We take them around the shelter. So there's a lot of community involvement because everybody loves animals. We have dogs and cats and rabbits, and the community, we want to be involved. And look at the shelter is not a depressing place, but a place that we love and care and enrich these animals and want them to get good homes. So I'm glad you felt that way. That's nice to hear.
It was a wonderful feeling, especially after I experienced this other place that felt like, Alcatraz or something. Oh, it was
Sure.
awful. Um, so it just was a coincidence that when I went there, it was, what is the word? Clear the shelters? Something like that. There was a great big poster. And what it said was I think it was 4 days, all the adoptions were free. And so I got my first kitty who spent
Ah,
the night bouncing on me. And I thought, I need another kitty. So I came back the next day and got my second kitty. And now they sort of bounce on each other rather than me.
oh, that's
Oh,
wonderful.
they have so much fun. But that was amazing. So I ended up with two kitties who had been treated for fleas. They'd had their hysterectomies.
Yep,
What else?
microchipped
Microchipped. Um,
and all their shots.
I got a little collar, and if I'd known their names, I could have had the name put on there. It was amazing. I mean, so tell us about that experience of the
Well,
days that are free, where you
Well,
can.
one of unfortunately, we have been, I think I mentioned earlier, we had been a few weeks ago at 140% of capacity. And so we initiated a fee waived adoption, open-ended, basically to be able to get the animals out and get them adopted. And we're down considerably, but we're still over capacity. And so right now we are continuing the fee waived adoption program. And as you mentioned, the dogs are all neutered or spayed, and they have their shots and microchipped, and so they're free. And then Clear the Shelter is a national program that's happening on September 6th. So shelters nationwide will be fee free that day, and it's heavily promoted on national media. And it's basically clear the shelters. We don't want them there. We want them in homes. And so it's an ongoing problem, but right now you can still come down and there's a fee waived to find your pet.
Okay, so Anne, do you have some stories for us about happy endings, whatever, with adoptions, with the animals, and making that connection? Because in some ways it's kind of like getting married. I mean, you're choosing this being that you're going to be living with for a long time.
Well, we have adoption counselors. People pick out the dog online now and request an appointment, and they come in and they have what we call a meet and greet. And we have adoption counselors that will work with you. And we want a good match. And, if you have an 80-pound pit bull and you live in a studio apartment without a yard, that's not going to be a good fit. So we try to ferret out those things. Are there young children? Are there other pets at home? So we try to counsel people so that there's a good match. If they have other pets, we encourage them to bring the pets to the shelter, and we'll take the dog. We're talking dogs. We'll take the dog outside and they do a meet and greet to see how they get along. And sometimes there's a dog that is a kind of a bully dog, rough dog, and I wonder how the show went. And the staffer will say it jumped in the person's lap, was kissing it all over the face, match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Uh, so you never know. And sometimes we have returns. If you adopt a dog, you have 30 days to return it if it's not a good fit. Um, but and we have people, you mentioned about people losing their pets. We've had people come in crying because they just put down their pet and they're looking for a new one. And I've spent a number of times just with my arms around somebody, letting them cry, and maybe kind of suggesting that they need to have a little bit of recovery, and come back. Or they might tell me what they're looking for and we communicate, and maybe they come back a few weeks later and find a match. Um, I've had fathers that have come in looking for a surprise for their children and asking me to pick out a dog. And I picked one out, and then I get pictures when he surprises his daughters, and they love it. So you pick out these little special things that happen that just make it so rewarding.
I have a special story, a happy ending story. Um, I was among many people who wanted a certain dog that you folks had.
Mhm.
And I got there so early, I thought, and this was back when you had a list. You signed the list. So the first person there was the first person to get to see that dog. Well, there were other names in front of me. I couldn't believe it. One man had been there since 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, we used to do that.
Okay. So I went in and I looked at everybody and I was kind of discouraged. And I was leaving and I talked to one of the staff in the office and she said, well, now let's just look. So she turns her computer. We start looking at these animals and there was this rather pitiful looking dog. And she said to me, which is a total hook for me, she said, now here's an animal with potential. And I thought, oh my God, I don't think so. But I said, okay. So I went out and I met this dog. Oh, she was so pitiful. They'd had to shave her down because
Yep.
the woman said she came in as a flea hotel. She had this huge coat. They showed me a picture and they'd shaved her down to get rid of all those fleas. She was scarred, her tail was broken, and she wanted nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing. I brought treats. You folks have treats to,
Yep.
help the conversation get going. She didn't want anything to do with me. And she had been found on the streets of Oxnard, which has some scary areas, some beautiful areas and some scary areas. And she'd been out there obviously for a long time because she was starving, just bones. So I said, okay. But I asked, if this doesn't work, can I bring this dog back? And will you let me try again? And he said, oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So I take her home, and before very long, oh gosh, I'm going to tear up. She has been the most wonderful dog because I have an autoimmune disease that keeps me on the couch a lot. I have to rest a lot. That little dog, and she was very young, she was 2 years old. She lies right down next to me.
Yep.
She has to go everywhere with me. She has two flaws. One is she has to be with me all the time. So she goes to a lot of doctor's appointments and they all welcome her
Okay.
because she behaves beautifully, unless there's another dog. She's terrible with other dogs.
I'll
And
react.
yeah, we've worked on it, but I don't think it's going to go away. I think she was really fighting for her life out there.
Sure. Sure.
And I just, I watch when I take her for a walk. I don't take her to restaurants where everybody's going to walk by with their dog because she gets very aggressive with dogs that are like 10 times her size. And they
Sure.
just look at her like, what is your problem? But she has been so lovely.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
I had to come back and tell that lovely lady how much she helped me and how
That's
glad I
wonderful.
was that she encouraged me. So there's a happy story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So just briefly, and I'm sure people can figure it out, but what are some of the rewards for people who volunteer in this kind of thing, their local shelter, wherever they are? What do they get back?
Oh my gosh. There's a need, where there's a need, you want to serve. And there's a need. We have so many dogs, so many animals. The more they can be taken out and walked, the more we can do enrichment with them, with treats, with training. The more ready they are to go into a loving home, the more we can learn about them so we can match them up with people. There's laundry. There we have 4 washers and dryers that could run 24/7. Every dog gets a blanket. All the toys are cleaned every day. The kennels are cleaned every day. You can come in and do laundry. You can hose kennels. Sometimes on a summer day, there's nothing more fun than to take the hose, the power hose, and hose down kennels. That sounds crazy, but we do it. We have play groups. We have trained staff and volunteers that have learned how to conduct professional play groups where animals are brought together that we can learn about. They get out of the kennels. I pick weeds. I'm walking dogs and I see weeds. I stop. I pick weeds. I mean, there's so much to do there. Um, Enriching, walking, training, cleaning. It's endless, and the shelter is a 24/7 facility. And so people can come in at 7:30 in the morning and people can come in at 5 o'clock at night, and it's 7 days a week. So again, for volunteering, when there's a need and it's something you like and you go into, I'll spend time in a kennel with a dog that is petrified. It won't look at me. It's cowering in the corner. And we call that kennel time. And you learn over time signals, is it aggressive or is it just afraid? Can I safely enter the kennel? And you spend kennel time. And after a certain amount of time with that dog, over a few days perhaps, all of a sudden it comes to you and takes a treat out of your hand. And then the next day it's in your lap, and then you're walking it. And it's that is the most satisfying thing in the world, that you have done that, the time you have spent, and then that dog is ready for a show and to go home. So that's just a little sample. We have a bunny brigade. You can work with bunnies, reptiles, cats. We have cat people. They don't have anything to do with dogs, just cats. So there's something for everybody. And they're even clerical work if that's what you want. It's there's a need.
Yeah. So if that's something that you've thought about and you're wondering if it would work for you, it sounds like the rewards are immense, and you kind of get to pick your place that you want to be, what you want to do. It also sounds, Anne, like people learn a lot about maybe their own animals, better ways to interact, the cues that animals give us.
Oh, you do. I've learned a tremendous amount. You're working with experts, and we have training. When you come in, there's an orientation, and you're trained for each aspect. You don't just come in and start walking dogs. You learn, you're trained. Yeah, and you have experts to learn how to handle the dogs that are there, and for your own dog, sure.
So
And you make friends. I mean, we have a wonderful community of people, staff and volunteers. So it's a friendly, welcoming place, and you have friendships too.
yeah, I can see that that there's a lot of rapport among the staff, because I guess it's because I was a former therapist. This sounds so therapeutic to me, not just for the animals, but for people, a very, very therapeutic experience all the way around.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. Okay, so Anne, tell me about your other passions, because I know you have other interests besides dogs.
Yeah, something I've always loved all my life is the theater. My parents took me to live theater way, way back. And aside from being an audience member over the years, I got involved with the Rubicon Theater, an equity theater in Ventura, ushering. And then from the ushering, I got involved with another friend there, working for Brian McDonald, who was the education outreach director. And we worked with the student programs in the summer, putting on the productions, helping the students, doing fundraising. And it's the theater. And again, there's a need, whether it's the fundraising or hands-on assistance, and you're working with theater people, and you're seeing young students come in the beginning of the summer, not knowing what they're doing, and then they put on a wonderful production. And you're also attending the regular theater that's there. And that has been wonderful. With COVID, that kind of shut down a little bit. But then I met two people, a husband and wife, Bev and Kirby Ward, who were involved at the theater, who are starting up a new theater group now called New Art City Theater out of Ventura. And it's a wonderful nonprofit that fosters the development of playwrights. There are playwrights that have works that want someone to see, want someone to produce. And so we've raised funds, and we had a festival last year, Festival 24, and we solicit submissions nationwide. We got 175 plays in last year, and we selected 4 of them that are put on at the Museum of Ventura County. We had a matinee and an evening performance of each of the plays. We fly the playwrights out. And it's not a staged production, but it's a equity actors, professional directors, and they're sort of formalized table reads. So if you listen to it, it's like a real professionally produced show, but without the costumes and the backgrounds and such. And then after the show, each performance, there's a audience Q&A with the playwright. So you have a chance to talk to the playwright and the actors, and the playwright learns from you, the audience reaction. And the wonderful thing about it is the audience is invited for free. Tickets are free. So people that love the theater have a chance to come in at the ground level and see works in progress, to meet with the actors and playwrights. It provides a very much more diverse audience because there are people that maybe can't afford the theater that have an opportunity to come in and see the theater. So we're giving playwrights an opportunity. We're providing the community free tickets to plays during the festival. And so that keeps me involved with the theater. There are fundraising events we have that I work. I do the marketing and PR for the event, for the festival. And this year I'm going to be able to be on a committee that does some reading of these 275 plays we got in. So that again, it's a love of mine of the theater, of actors, and there's a need for things that I'm doing. And so it's this perfect match. So you're feeling so fulfilled, and for yourself, selfishly, you're getting your fix of theater, and you're helping out. And when it comes to that, it's just like whatever you need me to do, call, and it's so fulfilling.
So, what portion of your life does this very rich volunteerism fill? Because it sounds like it's a very big and important part.
Well, I looked up, we have a wonderful website for the shelter, and I looked up, I started volunteering in 2015, and I've spent 3,800 volunteer hours since then, which is about 4 to 5 days a week. It's like 10 minutes from my house. I'm there for maybe 2 to 3 hours. So it's very manageable. My husband plays golf 3 times a week, so that is a nice, he's out, I'm out.
Yeah, and you're both doing what you want to do, and nobody's got a
Exactly.
resentment that the other one isn't home entertaining them. That's great. That's
Yeah.
super. All right. Is there anything now at this point in your life that you're looking forward to doing next that's new?
I'm getting involved a little bit in political and or getting in some local political organizations. The times are so challenging, and I'm passionate about things, more passionate than I wish I was sometimes. But getting involved in things that pique your interest. Um, but right now, I don't know. That's kind of it. The theater and the shelter, and maintaining your home and your own dog and your network of friends. That kind of provides a full life.
So, my last question, Anne, and thank you so much for being here today. What do you want to say to our listeners, our viewers? What is your message to other persons of age?
I think stay healthy if you can. Hopefully you're blessed with some good health. But exercise, eat well, take care of yourself. That's the first thing, because if you don't do that, it's hard to take care of other things. Take care of yourself, and take stock of what interests you, what excites you. So many of us have been on a path in life of things we've had to do that are just automatics, but we're at a point now where we can pretty much do what we want to do, and you can get off one track and explore new things. There's so much need out there. You can Google where you live, and find out what the needs are, whether it's with animals or children. Explore and go to a meeting, go talk to somebody, and don't be afraid to try something. And if it's not for you, that's it. You've given it a shot. Go find something else. I have friends that volunteer at the library. We have a Friends of the Library store in town that supports our wonderful library. And that's a very quiet thing, but they like books, they like people. And that Friends of the Library raises, I think, about $400,000 a year, and people contribute their time to that. So there's so much that you can do. So go explore, go Google, talk to other people that volunteer, see what they do. And again, there's no commitment. You try it. If you don't like it, you find something else. It's not a paying job, and they're going to open their doors to you when you're a potential volunteer.
There is really a theme of freedom here. You're free to explore, you're free to do what you want, you're free
Yes.
to use the time the way you want to use it. And you don't owe anybody anything because you're not being paid.
Mhm.
I remember so well with my mother, I think her entire working career, and she worked all my life, um, she was being paid for suffering. She hated the job she had. She did a very good job because she was very conscientious, but it was really being paid for suffering. And when she finally was able to retire, she did exactly what you're saying, Anne. She painted. She loved painting, played the piano, um, went places and played for, you know, rest homes and so on, and really made her life her own. So it sounds like you're saying get out there and explore and
And find your passion. Get out and explore, find your passion. And there are organizations, before I did these physical type things, there were charitable organizations that put on lunches and events, and they're always looking for workers. It's endless. There's so much out there. And so just get out and explore and find the thing that you're passionate about. And it might shock you what you find.
and that would probably be fun. Yeah, find your passion. I think it's very easy as we get older to just let our world get smaller, smaller and smaller and smaller. And you are such an example of no, 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 open those doors, go through them. If you don't like it, come back out, slam the door, go through another one. But make your life open up rather than close in,
And I
right?
think some people, it also depends on personality. There are some
Mhm.
people that maybe are not as social. You know,
Yeah.
when you start to get out there, you have to talk to people you don't know. You have to make some phone calls. You might have to walk into a meeting, you know, alone where people you don't know. And that's not always everybody's comfort level.
Mhm.
And the fact that you are interested in volunteering, you are going to be greeted with open arms,
Yeah.
and you're of value to them.
Yeah.
And so you just have to, you know, get that person has to just give themselves a pep talk that there's this wonderful thing out there. And if that's holding you back, uh, you've got to work through that.
Grab a friend to go in the door with you or something,
Exactly.
whatever it
Exactly.
takes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Anne, thank you so, so very much for joining us today. And thank you to all of you who've been with us. I can't add any more to what Anne said. Just find your passion, go for it, right? All right. We hope you'll join us again. Bye for now.
Bye bye.
Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, is sponsored by Sensationally Silver, a complete hair care product line created especially for people with hair like ours, naturally gray and white hair. Sensationally Silver products can be found exclusively at sensationallysilver.com.
Sensationally silver.